the same way.
No, I can't stand baseball and all their
That
numbers and just baseball's
oh man,
such a boring game, dude.
you're crazy, bro. It's because you never played it.
I did play it. I was on the Giants when I was in Little League.
Okay, well,
And even then I hated it. Matter of fact, I quit that before we finish this. I quit because I didn't really like it to begin with.
yeah.
And when my coach was telling me never swing at the first pitch. The guy swung the guy threw it. I hit the first pitch and almost knocked it out, and we scored.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of congratulating me, he yelled at me for swinging at the first pitch. So I was
That,
like, "Screw this,
that
I'm
sounds
done."
normal. That sounds normal.
Yeah, I was just like, "Are you serious, dude?" Like, so I didn't play anymore.
I loved it.
Yeah, I hated baseball. I just so boring. I wanted to hit people. That's why I like football.
That's well but the stick when you're hitting with a stick, it feels pretty damn good, bro. When you're hitting that when you hit that ball,
Sure,
feels
sure,
pretty freaking good.
sure.
Um,
All right, you ready to get started?
yeah,
Did you share and everything?
yeah, I'm ready, man. What
Okay.
are we talking about?
Well, we're about to find out.
Hey, Turney, before we start, are you okay? I know the 49ers lost. They're sitting
Yes,
at
we
home.
did.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm
You okay?
splendid actually.
Hmm?
I'm splendid.
Okay. Just want
So,
to check on you.
all
I know that's for the
right.
We the Middle show, but just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I'm actually doing quite well.
Got my Arctic vibe
I
going.
see that. I finally did taste the fantasy vibe. It was okay. Nowhere near my favorite. My favorite is the tropical one.
Tropical vibe. Yeah, tropical
Yeah.
vibe is better than
So,
fantasy.
all right,
Yeah,
let me
let's
start
go.
this.
Good.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. Were you trying to do
Boom.
like a pose like for the camera when that happened?
What?
When the camera
What?
switched over, you're like,
No, I was
you're
trying to
trying to.
I was trying to figure out why my damn on air light is blinking instead of just being stagnant.
Oh, yeah, that I couldn't tell you. Anyways,
It's blink.
what's
It's
up,
annoying.
everybody?
I don't like that little blink.
Well, don't look at it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is Tuesday, so this is going to have to be our Dharma Time hour, or Dharma Time edition, however you want to say that. As always, he is the Dope Doctor, and I am the Dharma Guy. What's up, everybody? What's up with you, Dope Doctor?
That's right.
How's your Steelers doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, they're great, man. We got a
Sure.
great team lined up for next year. We're at home just like you guys are, eating barbecue,
Yep.
waiting for the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, well, they're in San
only
Francisco.
we got a better
so-
draft pick because we left earlier. Look, if you're not going to win the whole thing, go home early, get the best draft
Yeah.
pick. That's how I feel about
Yeah.
football, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
right.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
I'm not.
well,
I'm
first,
not one of those that like to go. At least we made it all the way to the end. I don't like that. I don't
no,
like that because
no,
then you get the
losing
worst
still
thing.
losing, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, so real quick, for those of you who want to comment and interact with us live, you could do so on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch under Dope and Dharma. Feel free to leave some comments and let us know what you're thinking. If you want to listen to us at your leisure or when you're driving or whatever it might be, check out your major podcasting platform and look up Dope and Dharma, and you can find us there. So I guess let's just go ahead and dive right in, man.
Okay.
I think it was yesterday. My wife was talking to me about some story she read where a woman, I guess, was dealing with some postpartum depression. They called it postpartum psychosis too. So I don't know if those are different or if I'm assuming they're related, but either way, she ended up killing her 3 kids and tried to kill herself. And it was just a terrible story. My wife read it to me and she was taken aback by it. Mainly because the woman worked in the baby delivery ward or whatever. I don't know what she called it, something specific, but either way, and she was just like, wow, for somebody that does that for a living, it's so, in theory, in love with bringing life into the world or whatever, to do what she did was just crazy. That was just, gives you pause, I guess. And she was apparently, I've never heard of this, but she was apparently going to some sort of a postpartum therapy 5 days a week, which sounds like a lot, right? Like that sounds pretty intensive, I guess. Yeah.
Mhm.
Either way, so that got her to thinking, like, wow, did she not know? Like, why did she not try to remove herself from the situation, and not be around? Because essentially, apparently, the dad went to go get like takeout and was gone for like 20 minutes. When he came back, all hell broke loose. Like she strangled and tried to kill the 3 kids, and then jumped out of the 2-story window trying to kill herself. And he came home to that. Like, I just stepped out for like 15 minutes. Like, what the hell happened? So yeah,
So
it's
who all
terrible.
died? Who all died?
The
All
3
of them?
kids. The 3
So
kids, yeah.
she
No,
successfully killed all 3 kids,
I believe so, yeah.
and she did not successfully kill herself.
Correct. And so what they're finding out though is she had postpartum like
Wow.
psychosis is what they're calling about. So, I'm familiar with postpartum depression. I mean, I both are fathers, and so I'm sure at some
Yeah.
point it was brought up to you
Yeah.
during the pregnancies. So it's a very real thing, and it's devastating. And I know that when these things happen, obviously the first thought is like, how could it be prevented? And so that got me to thinking. My wife wanted us to do a show on it somehow, some way, like the premise. And the best way I felt I could approach that subject was just, are you okay? And what I mean is like, I don't know what that was. Did you hear that?
Are you okay?
Something just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope so. There's nobody in this room with me, and something just fell. So it's weird. Anyways,
Well, then who's the guy behind you with the mask on?
exactly. Uh, but no, I think that, I don't know, man. I've had my own issues to deal with. You have had your own issues to deal with. My neighbor, whom I barely know, I've spoken to him a handful of times.
Mhm.
And just some of the things that, like, when I get updates from him, it's just like, oh my God, like terrible, terrible things that he's just kind of
Right.
going through. And I think when you look on your social media, there's a lot of people going through things. Some of them will say it, some of them won't, but you can kind of tell. You might get the vague, "Hey, we need prayers" kind of a thing. Who knows? And so it got me to thinking, like, what does okay look like? What does not okay look like? Because I think that there's a lot of people out there who might not be okay, and either they don't know it,
Yeah.
or maybe they're trying to kind of put on a brave face and not burden anybody, not realizing that that's actually causing more trouble. Maybe they're too proud to ask for help. Maybe they don't know how to ask for help. So I didn't have anything specific. I just wanted us to discuss that general topic today, because I think you and I both help people. And um, after talking to you for years, I feel like you and I both are in a similar boat, in the sense of we both seem to be pretty self-aware as to what we're going through, and like how that's affecting us. Doesn't mean we're great at stopping it all the time, right? Like we still succumb sometimes to our sadness or whatever, but I feel like we're both pretty in tune with where we're at mentally. But I don't think everybody's there.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of people out there who aren't really in tune, who are not okay and don't realize that they're okay. And then they don't know how to ask for help. So, which, leads me to, in my own situation, my own life, that was that was a pretty major disagreement I had years back with my aunt, because, my dad was not a good father and did horrible things to all of us. And then fast forward, I think it was like 30 years. I made a I made a joke on Facebook about my dad not being present, and my aunt decided to use that platform as an opportunity to have a discussion about some of this. And one of the things that she mentioned was that she was under the impression that my father had some sort of mental disorder. I don't even remember what it was, something serious. And my thing was, I didn't care, right? It didn't affect what I went through as a kid. And my thought process was, there were signs. And if there was something mentally wrong, then he should have reached out for help. He should have done something. You don't take it out on your family. So
Mm.
uh, I think there is a responsibility to an extent, right? For all of us. Isn't there some sort of responsibility for us to take those hard looks inward and find out if we're doing okay? And if we're not, try to remedy that somehow? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. First of all, what's not okay is my dang internet, because I'm hearing every third word you're saying, and I'm having to
Yeah.
connect the dots. So I'm
Yeah. You keep
blinking.
freezing on me
I'm
too, by the
blinking
way.
just like that on air sign. What was that?
I said you keep freezing on me too, but that's
What was
okay.
that?
You're gonna keep saying it. Oh,
No,
gotta love the
man.
New Smyrna Beach internet.
New Smyrna Beach internet is the worst internet on the planet. Thank you,
Yeah.
Spectrum, for your crappy service. But anyway, I guess what I was thinking right there when you were speaking was, um, this goes in line with I think the responsibility of leadership, right? And when I mean leadership, I'm talking about when you're a child, you're on a need to know basis, right? And I think that one of the things that I look back upon, and I don't know how my parents did it because I was so unsuccessful at doing it, but I don't know how they were able to have arguments and not let us know about it. The only way we knew it was an argument was because my mother was silent, right? But you know, the silence to me was much better than what Dana and I did because I wasn't silent. So even though I was raised that when arguments were silent, Dana and I, when we argued, even if the kids were present, it was too visible.
Right.
And when I mean too visible, it's because I'm comparing it to the complete, like, I don't even remember my parents arguing. Never saw it. Um, so I think the leadership that my parents took was to never discuss finances with the kids. So we knew nothing about their finances ever.
Right.
Never argue in front of the kids. So their stress was not our stress. And so that was awesome because I was able to complete at least one of those, 50% of those. I never talked, money with the kids. They don't need to know any of the business. In other words, I made an effort at being that kind of leader where I didn't want to show them as much of the realities of some of that stuff. I'd have financial discussions with them that I thought were teaching moments, but not necessarily any other deals, right?
Right.
So I think leadership, when I say leadership, it goes beyond that though, right? So it's our homes. What did we get raised watching and seeing? And therefore you as adults that are watching and listening to this, what are you presenting? What kind of stressors are you handing off? Yeah, they're stressors for you. Well, what do you think it is for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or 10-year-old? Like one thing my parents never said is, no, you can't have it because we don't have the money for it. And I see a lot of parents do it, and I get it. I get why you do it. I'm not downing it. Why you did say that out there, do it. I'm not saying that it's a negative all the way, but it is a stressor. So let's be mindful that it is a stressor, though. When you say that to a kid, they now have financial insecurity that they didn't need to have, right? So when we talk about food insecurities, when we talk about financial insecurities, when we talk about home insecurities, when we talk about insecurities, just know that leadership plays a role. And so I think when government talks about the sky's falling, like, if the Crips are involved, they say the sky's falling, and then when the Bloods are in power, they say the sky's falling. Everybody, whoever's not in power is saying the sky's falling. So there's all kinds of the stressors that we get all the time. And so if you turn on the news, it's constant, fear tactics. Like you're going to die of this invisible virus that's out there and it's going to kill you and it's killing your grandparents and blah, blah, and you could be murdering your grandparents. And so it's been like that for a couple of years, like on a heightened level. Like we were already having it.
Yeah.
But since 2020, it just went to an extreme level. And so, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are okay. I don't think we've had a time enough to realize that not only did we start fighting each other around 2016 because, leadership decided to use their political arguments against us and start telling us that we should be insecure about who's in charge because, they hate half of you, but it's just gone on from there. And they will not stop. So since 2016, we've been inundated with fear tactics, and then since 2020, we've had death on top of that. So not only do people, your neighbors are supposedly hating you, and they want to string you up from a tree, but now we have, and there's this virus out there that wants to kill you as well. It's like,
Yeah.
so no, people aren't okay because now we go out there and we don't know. I'm sorry, what was the third?
Well, so there's a third
You're going to lose
component
the
to that
Super
too.
Bowl, that you're not going to make it to the Super Bowl because you have no quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, there's a third component to that too, and that's finances. A lot of people took some
Right.
financial hits during COVID
Right.
because they couldn't work
Right.
or what have you. So
That's right.
People who normally, are not financially in trouble,
Right.
are dealing with all those things that you just mentioned.
Right.
But now they're also dealing with, like, what are we going to do? Financially,
Right.
We can't understate how much finances play a role in our ability to be
Huge.
okay. When you're waking up every day struggling, trying to figure out how you're going to keep the lights on, man, like that's a level of stress that people live under, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
and then throw in that, like you
And
said,
it's a reality.
Yeah, yeah.
So all those things play a role. And so, of course, people are more stressed out than normal. It's like, how are you going to live with these stressors? Especially when there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to utilize the system. Let's be real honest here. There's so many of us. Like, put it this way: if I needed to use the system to eat today, I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, me either.
I really don't. I
Me
don't
either.
have an. I don't need. I wouldn't even know how, as much as. And I sit on committees that actually deal with public health. I'm a vice president of a committee that we disperse $108 million for local hospitals and local mental health places and substance use disorder places. But if I had a financial insecurity right now and a food insecurity right now and a home insecurity right now, I would know zilch of how to go get that help other than take loans out if I could get them, hawk everything if I could do it, or, lean on family. That's what I would know how to. I don't know how to use the system to how to do that. So I think a lot of people are in that situation, and we forget that. We forget that when the middle class is struggling with things that they are unfamiliar with dealing with, that's a very dangerous place for us to be, because let's be mindful here. Most of us are in middle class. Most of us. That's it. Now, you may be low middle class or you may be upper middle class, but you're in the middle class. And in that realm of middle class, when the middle class suffers, we all suffer. All.
Yeah.
And I think that's when our numbers go up, and that's when our problems really go up.
Yeah, I think just to speak on that for a second, I remember when I was a kid, my mom was a single mom and raising a couple of kids, and we moved down from Montana to Florida, and we didn't really have much when we got here. And I remember her trying to go get services. People told her about it. So she tried to go get, I think it was like food stamps or something. But she didn't know what she was doing. And nobody was like helping her figure it all out.
Mm-hmm.
So she actually got frustrated and was like, fine, whatever, I'll do it on my own. So she actually tried to get some help, didn't know how to do the system, and gave up and just, did what she had to do to survive, really.
Right.
But I think that's the thing, though, is so, yeah, I agree with you that there's a certain amount of responsibility on all of our shoulders to be self-aware. We talk about self-care all the time. And self-care typically revolves around, hey, make sure you take some time out to enjoy your life or laugh or, do whatever. But self-care is also diagnosing, hey, I'm not doing good right now. That's part of self-care too. We've all had our moments. Like, I remember it was a few years ago now. It was when my hormonal stuff was like completely out of whack. And they were giving me shots, and those shots were turning my estrogen up. Like, I had like, I don't know, it was like 4 times the amount that I was supposed to have. It was a horrible time for me. Like, during that month I remember it was the month of December when all this was happening. And I remember telling my doctor, I was like, dude, I don't think something's right. Like, I could feel it. But he, he wasn't listening to me, essentially. And so, but I remember in that month's time, I think I even remember telling you, like, I'm not doing good. Like, something's wrong here. Like, I'm not thinking straight right now. And so I made sure to not make any like major decisions at that time in my life. I made sure I was very aware of certain things. I spoke out. I did the things I had to do because I did feel a certain amount of responsibility. Like, it is our responsibility to acknowledge I'm not doing well and look for the signs. Some of the signs are just simply, are you finding yourself agitated more than normal? Are you lashing out at friends and family more than normal? Are you finding yourself, unwilling or uninterested to do some of the things that you normally like to do? Are the things that you like to do not bringing you as much joy as they used to anymore? Some of those things are situational, right? Like, if you're going through a tough time, then sadness is normal, right? Like, if you had a relative or your parents just died, I don't expect you to want to go hang out with your boys tomorrow and watch the football game. Like, I get it. It's an appropriate response to that kind of a thing. But if you don't have anything major like that that's happened, and you're kind of just like finding yourself not interested to do anything, that could be a problem. I'm not saying it is, but you got to look at those things. If you have friends and family around you, or coworkers even, that are constantly coming up to you and asking you, hey, everything okay? You seem different. Don't just brush that off. Look into it. And once again, maybe you are different, and that's okay. Maybe being different at that moment is an appropriate response, but you won't know that if you don't look into it. If you don't look into saying, maybe I'm being affected more than I think I am, because that's the other thing we don't realize. The reason why I think it is our responsibility is, like he just said, I'm a leader in my house. I have kids and I have a wife that look to me for strength, security, reassurance, those kinds of things. And if I'm not doing well, then it's a snowball effect and it affects all of them. And it's not my kid's fault and it's not my wife's fault if I'm struggling with something. If I'm struggling with something, I owe it
Right.
to them and to me to try to figure out a way to handle it skillfully. That doesn't mean that they don't support me. That doesn't mean that they're not there for me. It just means I don't need to place that burden on their shoulders for them to work on now. And so the number one step, I believe, is looking inward to figure out, are you okay? And then if you find out you're not okay, then I think the next major step is, what do I do about it? And I think that's what you were alluding to, is a
Right.
lot of us don't know how to do something about it. Like there's just so many people out there who've never even heard of EAP.
Right.
And
Right.
it's called an employee assistance program. So it's basically like, most of your larger companies that you'll work with, it might not be the small mom and pop local stores, but mostly your major companies are going to have an EAP system, whether you have benefits or not. It's an EAP system where you basically say, "Hey, I need help," and then they put you in contact with like a mental health service that gives you 6 to 8 sessions sometimes, free with like a therapist or something like that in your
Huh.
community. Each company is going to have a different pathway to get to that. So I would encourage you, if you're struggling and you're working somewhere, reach out to somebody and ask them if they've ever heard of the EAP and how to get a hold of them. But that's an example of how you can have access to stuff and not even know it, right? But there's videos out there, there's books out there, there's friends, there's mentors, there's a lot of different avenues to reach out to, but you'll never get there if A, you don't acknowledge it, and B, you don't start to reach out.
Yeah, I don't think we put a lot of value onto mental health professionals. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
Is that, if we don't understand the value that they can have for you, and I'm not saying they're all great, because they're not, but
no,
not all mechanics are great, yet we continue to look for the mechanic that we like, right? Um,
yeah,
so that's just the way it is. It's just that you have to find somebody that you can just vent and express yourself with, and someone that can just help you, just like gather your thoughts for a moment. Maybe even make a plan, maybe develop some strategies, some coping strategies, because I think what I'm watching is everybody's trying to deal with their frustration, their depressions, their anxieties, their issues by lashing out at others, telling them that they have to change. That everyone else has to change, or feeling like this world is going to crap. I mean, it's real easy to see that. It's real easy to feel like this world is just, it's not going well. But you know what? We've always said that. Every generation has said that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I remember the old funny thing is that I watch a lot of black and white television, right? We all know that. I watch a lot of
sure.
Rawhide. I watch a lot of Perry Mason.
Wow,
I
wow,
watch Death Valley Days. I mean, these are shows that I have over 100 episodes of each that I can always just tap into. And then I even have old Barney Millers, because those still make me laugh. And I know so many of you don't even know all these shows, but I've collected them for a reason, because they talk about things that are still relevant now. And where
yeah,
I learned this trick, I learned this from my father, actually, because my dad used to watch Star Trek and I hated it. I hated Star Trek.
which one?
I love that he liked Westerns. There was only one Trinity.
The William Shatner
My
one?
childhood. Yeah, there was
Oof.
only one back then, bro. Come on
Yeah,
now.
that one was hard to
So,
watch.
so I could not watch it. I never liked it. But my dad would sit there and say, "Listen to the themes." And so I started learning how to watch television differently with my dad. And so, like, when I would watch Hogan's Heroes and that, and say, little show, I would listen to themes, and he was right. All these shows have the same themes that every generation deals with, but
Yeah,
we get stuck in this belief that, it's now it's different. Like, it was great and now it's bad. No, it's always had the same exact themes, really. And it's amazing how advanced we've always been, and yet behind we've always acted. We've always been advanced, but we behave as if we're behind, and
yeah,
we complain like we're behind.
yeah.
But we're always progressing. There's never a stop in progress, by the way. There's never a stop in destroying the fabric of whatever generation you come from. Whatever generation you come from, fabric is always, because
Your
when I
internet is so bad.
watch these black and white television shows, it is.
Yeah,
Am
you're all
I
over the
going in
place.
and out, Trinity?
Yeah,
Am I
all
like?
over the
Are you
place.
even able to? Nah, I don't even want to talk then. I don't even want to talk. I can't stand my internet, New Smyrna Beach. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
I mean,
okay.
I
My
can.
internet's not okay.
Yeah, I can piece it together. I'm sure most people can, but it's not an enjoyable experience. That's the thing.
Yeah, but
Sure.
it's too frustrating. I don't want to talk if it's not an enjoyable experience. I like
Well,
to be an enjoyable experience always.
yeah. Well, the other reason why I bring this up, not your horrible internet, but the premise of "Are you okay?" is um, I have noticed that trend in my own personal life, just the people I interact with. Not so much, in my home, but just the people I come into contact with. I've noticed a trend, and that trend is more of a negative trend. Like I'm just noticing more and more, like a lack of optimism, lack of seeing it for what it is. Like there's a lot of emotional turmoil that I see that everybody kind of has, and it's coming out. That's not to say that there aren't some people out there who are still doing fantastic and who are optimistic and whatnot. I'm just not interacting with a lot of those people. Like a lot of the people I'm talking about used to be that, and I've noticed a switch. Right, like they're not different people, but they're just. If before it was like 1 out of 10 times they would complain, now it's like 7 or 8 times out of 10 they'll complain. They'll be frustrated, and so I mean it's obvious that some of these people just aren't okay, and they don't realize it. That's the crazy part is if you're not
Right.
really in tune with yourself, you're not going to realize it because you're going to
Yeah.
justify it. Of course you're pissed off. Of course you're mad. Look what's going on. I can give you a million reasons right now to be pissed off. No matter what it is, trust me, I can find the reason to be mad about it. Uh, and so we buy into that justification, and so we don't stop to think that, like, well, maybe, like, the how many times have we seen these show or these clips on the internet? And I hate calling them that, but that's what the world's calling them, so I'm gonna have to use it so everybody understands. But the Karens, right? Like these video clips of Karens out there who are basically yelling at people or what have you. Like you said, I think it was on Monday Night Show.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have a reason.
Yeah.
Like there's a justifiable reason, right?
Yeah.
But look at the way they're going about it. And the
Right.
problem is those people, most of them are probably normal, rational people. We just got a clip of like a bad moment in their life, and then we sum it up as, well, that's just who they are, when it's not. Because we all probably have moments where we kind of lose our shit a little bit, but in her mind, or their mind, I should say, in that particular moment, that's the problem, is they feel justified.
Right.
They feel as if that's an appropriate reaction to unload on this poor McDonald's worker who's making, $8 an hour to make you your shake.
Right.
It's okay to just unload on that person because they messed something up. And
Right.
and while maybe they did, I go to a fast food occasionally, and they mess up your order a lot. But being frustrated with that and bringing it up to them is not a problem. Flipping out and thinking you're justified now to completely unload on these poor people is not okay. And I think that's part of the problem, is when you're not aware that you're not doing well, you start to justify behavior that you normally wouldn't justify.
Right. But
Go ahead.
no, I think we need a new term, because Karen's
Yeah, I
unjustly.
hate the Karen thing.
I hate it too, and it unjustly, and because I'm married to a white woman,
Me too. What a
and she's right.
coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence. She's very offended by that word. She doesn't like that word because it unjustly acts like only white women do this, right?
Yeah.
But then what are we going to call all the other people? Because you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of other people that just bitch the hell out for no reason, and it's like, wait a minute, so what's your nickname? Since we're okay with racially profiling white women and attacking them for saying so, there's a lot of other people that just what do we call this? The people that chirp all the freaking time and chirp and expect you not to punch them in the face. Because there's a lot of people out there that chirp and they expect you not to punch them in the face. So here's where I go with, are you okay? We got to learn how to let it go. We got to learn. Stop trying to educate me. Stop trying to teach me. I don't need your value system. First of all, you have to. There's a thing in recovery. This is where recovery really can work for all of you, and 12-step meetings can work for all of you, whether you're an alcoholic or drug addict or not. Right? It's attraction rather than promotion. Attraction rather than promotion. Be an attractive person, personality-wise. Be an attractive person, morally wise. Be an attractive person in all facets of life. And then maybe I will want what you have. But when you're so freaking ugly in personality, in attitude, in morals, in standards, in so many ways, I don't want to hear how you have a better way of living or better way of life, or like I should be listening to you. That is the problem. You're so damn ugly so much of the time. And so we have to ask ourselves, am I not okay because I'm just ugly right now? Am I just being ugly? Am I just walking around negative? Am I just walking around being hateful? Am I just walking around blaming the world? Am I just walking around acting like everything sucks? Well, then you need to move out to the middle of Montana where Trinity comes from and just stay there for a while, because urban living is tough. City living is tough. Suburb living is tough. You know,
So is mountain living,
the
but I hear
sad thing, but it's tough in a different way. Maybe you
Yeah.
just need some time out from people,
Yeah.
and then so you can go out there, and the only person you can blame is yourself. You and your circle of friends. Go out there, live amongst the streams, fish for a while, breathe in the cool mountain air, and you'll realize, no, man, I contribute a lot to this. I'm part of the problem because I take the stress they give me and then I push it onto someone else because I don't want to hold it. It's like hot potato. You know, if I get a hot potato, I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to give it to somebody else. And that's all we're doing, playing hot potato with emotions so much. No, you take it, you take it, you take it. You know, and then it's like we're constantly playing, what's that, musical chairs. Where like as soon as it's like the music is constantly stopping and I'm saying, that's my freaking chair. I'm going to get in it before you get in it. It's like we're constantly playing these stupid games, man. And it's, how do we get out of it, man? How do we get out of these stupid games? I just want to let you have the chair. Take the damn chair. You want the chair? Take chair. I don't care about the cake anyway. I never wanted to take home the cake.
Yeah,
Was I lagging the whole time?
Off and on, but I think we all got the point. No, I think you're onto something there, right? Like the whole let it go thing.
Right.
I think let it go is so simple that it can be understated at times. But it's like legit, man. I remember before I even became like the Dharma guy, before I got into spirituality and things of that nature.
Right.
Leo says, I think you can call them Pez. They open their mouths like a Pez dispenser and spits out their junk. Yeah.
So correct. So correct.
But I remember when I was younger, I was probably in my early teens. I had this phrase that I would say sometimes. So even at an early age, I learned how to let certain things go. And the phrase I would use was, is this something that I'm going to like tell my grandkids about when I'm older? Like, is this that impactful? And if the answer is a no, then let it go. Like, it's obviously not a big deal.
Right.
You know, like if a person, like you said, took a chair or something, I don't know, like a parking spot, we'll just use that as an example. If I'm pulling into a parking spot and somebody pops in front of me, it's frustrating. It's annoying. Absolutely. But is it worth the aggravation? Is it that big of a deal? Am I going to be telling my kids, 30, 40 years from now, my grandkids, and like, Grandpa, what was the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Am I really going to be like, oh boy, back in 2023, there was a car and they pulled into a spot? Well, first of all, if that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, what an amazing life I've lived. Secondly, it's bullshit. You're not even going to think about it 2 weeks from now. So don't let it ruin your whole day right now. And so I think let it go is the practice here. Like, it's just not worth it. I watched a video earlier today, and it was a sad video. There was a gentleman out there, and I want to say it was California. I don't remember. Either way, he was like leaving his house. He was parked somewhere, and he was stepping out of his house. A car comes driving by in his neighborhood, and it was on the street. So he yelled at the car, "Hey, slow down!" Right. So he took it upon himself to try to be the police of the street and tell this person that they're going too fast. Right. And then the person, being a young kid, he decided, no, I'm not going to let that stand. So he stopped his car, reversed back up to him, got out of his car, and they started having words. They started going back and forth and arguing. Well, the gentleman who, and I use that term loosely, the guy who did the initial yelling pulled out his gun. He had a gun on his hip. He pulled it out. The kid realized at that point, I'm in too deep. The guy fired a shot. The kid turned around and walked away, and the guy shot him 3 or 4 more times in the back to kill him.
Jeez.
Yeah. And there was a camera across the street, like somebody's ring or something, that caught this whole exchange. And after the guy dropped to the ground, you can hear him tell him, that's what you get, called him a dumbass or whatever, like, now you're dead, that kind of stuff. And in that moment, he felt justified because from his perspective, you were speeding. I told you not to, and you came back and you wanted some, and I gave it to you. Legally,
Yeah.
he was in the wrong because he pulled out a firearm on an unarmed
Right.
man as he's walking away from you. So that feeling of rightness, now your life is over. Like, now you're in
Yeah.
prison for I don't know how many years you're going to get. Anybody who loves and cares for you is not. They're all affected. Not to mention, the other gentleman is dead now, and you're going to have to live with the fact that you took another person's life. You might not care right now because
Yeah.
you're upset. After about 10, 15, 20 years, when it sinks in, you're going to have to live with that. And don't underestimate the guilt that will come with that, knowing that not only did you take their life, but this is what you have now. You're in a 8x8 cell. But then on the reverse side, the other gentleman who was driving by, maybe he was going fast. I don't know. I don't have a speedometer. I don't have a radar to know what he was doing. But the person just yelled at you, slow down. Once again, 30 years from now, you're going to tell your grandkids the worst thing to happen to you was somebody yelled some words at you when you drove by. Like, that was enough for you to lose your life. That was enough for you to stop, turn around, and be like, no, you did. Let it go, man. Let it go. And it's not even just a man thing with the ego. I think it's just us as humans. We've gotten to the point right now where we just can't let things go. We think every single thing that's happened to us in the moment is the most important thing, and then therefore we forget about Z. All we're thinking about is A and B. You forget that, like, no, man, this story is going to continue. It's not just right here, right now. And I think that I think we got to learn to let it go, man. I really do. I think you just nailed it right on the head, man. I think that is the "Are you okay?" I think a lot of it has to do, aside from mental health concerns, aside from stress and tragedy and the things that we have to confront, because those have their own individual responses,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
But in general, I think we would do all of ourselves a favor and just learning how to let it go.
Yeah. You know what? And unintentionally, you just told my story of how I left my high school. That's how the shooting happened, and that's why I left high school. Except we're the ones that got flicked off, so we stopped the car and went back, and we should have never went back. And unfortunately, people got hurt on the other side, and that's my whole world changed from that moment. But the point is that you got to always expect that, right? That if you're going to play, citizen's arrest, and you're going to start doing that, there's a danger to it. But I do it too. I do it too, because I think that at the same time, there's times where it's necessary, where I'm not going to allow you to bully others. Like I can't stand bullies, and I don't like when people are being inappropriate in some form and way. And mind you, what I feel is inappropriate may not be, but at that moment, I felt like it is.
At least you can acknowledge that.
Yeah. And so at that moment, I find it very difficult to allow you to do something that I feel is hurting somebody else in a way, because you know they're not going to do anything about it. And then someone else steps in that will do something about it. And then now what? And so unfortunately, there are people that do that, and I'm one of them. Now, it may end tragically for me. There may come a day where that ends tragically for me. I've always thought that was going to end tragically for my dad. My dad is one of those people too, and I feel like, one of these days I'm going to hear a bad story that somebody hurt my father because he jumped in on something maybe he shouldn't have. But I would rather be that guy on that show. You watch those shows that says, "What would you do?" I'd rather be the guy that does something than does nothing. I just am that person. But what I'm asking us is that let's just take a step back and not start it in the first place, because that's what often we don't like. Okay, so one thing is our responses, right? But they're really reactions, not really responses.
Sure.
I take calculated responses. I'm not. I have backed off from doing something where I can look around and assess the situation and go like, this wouldn't go well no matter what, right? So you have to respond instead of react. Number one, but you also not have to. You can't instigate. You with your cell phones, putting it in people's faces. You with the acting like just because they're an employee of somewhere, so you can spout off at the mouth because they're an employee and they can lose their job, or you're going to sue them. Some of you just start mess. You see all those, the what is it, the Waffle House clips all the time. Like some of you just act so jerky to employees out there. But you do that with your family members. You do that with your spouses. You do that with your boyfriends and girlfriends. Some of you are so full of conflict to everybody around you that's like you got to take notice of that. This world is just too stressful for you. So maybe you need a timeout. Maybe you need to go help yourself. And I know you're not thinking it. I know you think just people suck. If you're out there, you put it this way: if you're out there, you say people suck, get a therapist.
Yeah.
I'll make it simple for you. If you currently right now think people suck, please get a therapist, because that is not a good way to walk out there.
No.
Because all you're going to do when you walk out there is you're going to see people that suck. And you're going to get more frustrated. Either you're going to hurt yourself or you're going to hurt others. Some of us are homicidal and some of us are suicidal. And if you don't know which one you are right now, that's even worse. You need to know which one you are. I know I'm not suicidal. I know I've been in bad situations, and never, ever, ever do I cross the line on the suicidal side, and I always cross the line on the homicidal side. So I know I need to constantly be well, because I will make bad decisions, and I can't afford to make bad decisions, because then, even though like Trinity says, you feel justified in the moment and you feel right in the moment, but that moment always passes. It always passes. And then you're sitting there and you're like, was it worth this?
Yeah, Joe Pesci's not the role model. He's not the role model. He's just not. And for those younger kids,
he dies in all those movies. He always dies. He always gets a shovel upside his head or shot in the back of the head because you can't do that.
No.
You can't do that. That's what I'm saying. People forget that Scarface got shot. People forget Joe Pesci gets a shovel beside his head or a bullet in the back of the head. You forget this stuff. That's what happens.
Yeah. Well,
there's always someone else. There's always Carlito's way. There's always someone else that shoots Carlito. It's just the way it is.
Well, and that's what I try to teach my kids all the time, because I'll tell them something and then they'll explain to me why it's not a problem. And I try to say to them, like, look, man, I'm not worried about the 1,000 times that it goes right. I'm worried about the one time it goes wrong. And by doing this, you're allowing for that one time, because the world is full of people who are in the hospital right now or in the cemetery who left their house thinking that today wasn't going to be the day. They just did something, and next thing you know, it was your turn. Life is fragile. But I think one of the final things I want to get at.
I know a mantra you and I, before you go on that, one of our mantras, we both say it a lot to each other, at least, and because it's true, is we say first world problems. To me, that's one of the best mantras that I have in my head when I feel negative is first world problems. My problems are nothing. They're a lot to me, but
of course,
they're first world problems. And I will take my first world problems any day.
I say that every time I get frustrated that a website won't load in like 3 seconds. Because I remember, like AOL days when it would take forever, and here I am upset that the thing in my pocket won't load a website in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's people out there who don't have clean drinking water. It's like, all right. But no, I think the other mantra that I would like to end on today is an important one, and it was a terrible one for me to learn. This one I struggled with to really kind of wrap my head around. The good news is once I learned it, things for my whole life changed, and because of that, I've been able to really kind of stick to it for the most part. And I've met a lot of people this is a really hard one too. You could be right or you could be happy. And what I mean by that is when I always used to want to be right, which means that every time an opportunity would arise for me to prove how right I am, I would take it. And I'd get irritated, and I get frustrated, and I get emotional about it. I get passionate about it, and I get upset that this person just can't understand how I'm right and they're not. And I wouldn't let it go, and it would cause strife between me and everybody around me.
Yeah.
And then the problem with that is, even when let's say you proved right, which you didn't at the end of the day, because the other person didn't really change. They just did what they had to do to appease you to squash the situation, and then they walked away saying, "Man, what an asshole he was. He didn't change anything. You weren't right." But the problem with thinking that you're right is there's always another one. The second you finish this one, there's another one that's going to pop up somehow, some way. And it's exhausting to try to be right all the time. You're constantly putting out fires. You're constantly involved in that. And at one point in my life, and that was what spirituality did teach me, because I didn't learn that until after spirituality got a hold of me. And that is,
Amen.
I'd much rather be happy, dude. I don't want to be right anymore. I don't care. If I'm right, great. That's awesome. That's such a bonus. But I'll take happy
Right.
any day of the week, dude. When I tasted inner peace and I realized how good just letting certain things just go and not worrying about being right anymore, how good that felt.
Right.
I'm good, bro. Like, you can have right. You can keep it. I'll leave that for the young ones. You can take it. I'll take happy any day of the week, man. And I think that is a big one that people have to understand. You could be right or you could be happy. And I think most people would choose happy. They'll say right to joke around, but at the end of the day, you're only fighting for right because you think that's what's going to make you happy. And it isn't. At the end of the day, we all want happy. We just have different ways of going about it. We have different ideas of what that looks like. But we'll all take happy. And I'm here to tell you, it's that decision. It's that moment. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You know, and I used to use that all the time when we did the pray program for those kids, because they would all sit there and try and tell me how, you know, weed was this and weed was that and everything else. I say, okay, well, that's great. Let's say you're right. But, you know, matter of fact, you are right? There's a bunch of states that all agree with you. The problem is you live in a state that doesn't agree with you. And so when you told that officer who came to arrest you how right you were, did that change the fact that you're here with me tonight on a Friday night? Are you happy right now? But you're right. Hey, I'll give it to you. You are right. Do you feel very right now when all your friends are out there hanging out on a Friday night and you're here with me talking? And that was the thing. That's what I try to get them to understand, is you can be right or you can be happy. And you know, saying that, and that goes with me everywhere in life, man.
Everywhere.
Even on an anecdotal level with my wife, right? It's a ha-ha, no, but it's legit. One of the things with my wife, if she's, you know, doing something that I don't agree with or whatever it is, I'd rather be happy. So I let her be who she is. And that sounds like a trivial thing, or that sounds like one of those age-old. No, that's how you make relationships work, is by allowing people to be who they are. I'd much rather be happy. I'm not trying to be right anymore.
You know, perfectly stated. And I am glad that you brought that up and reminded us of that, because I use that on the daily. That is another great mantra that has saved me a lot of grief. Because, see, Dana only has realized how wrong she is in arguments when I don't try to be right. You know, then she gets it sometimes. Like, she doesn't always realize she's wrong. But the times that she has realized she's wrong and come back and apologize later is when I remember that mantra and I stop the argument. I just staitito. Like my Italian
That's
teacher,
one of the bonuses that comes with that argument.
Yeah, my teacher back in high school, back in Italian class, I forget your name, whoever you are, but I remember your lesson. You'd always say, "Staitito, Luigi, staitito," and then, you know, basically what she was saying is, "Shut up, Louis." But I remember that lesson, and so when I shut up, and I put that mantra in my head, all right, just, she's not hearing you. No matter what, she's not going to hear what you got. She doesn't know that you're right now. She has no idea you're so right, and she's so ridiculous right now. But you're going to get that point across, so just shut up. And I just shut up, and then sometimes she comes back and she gets it. But if I keep arguing, never, ever, ever, I can really say this 100% of the time, 100% of the time, if I continue to argue, I'm eventually going to say something that you can't come back from to be right. It doesn't matter how right I started. I eventually will punch too hard, you know, and I'm talking verbally. Don't think I'm punching Dana. Dana's too sweet for that. But this mouth right here eventually is going to say, what can I say to get this to end right now? God dang mouth, man. This freaking mouth always says something that I sometimes I even go back and look at my mouth and go like, what really? You knew damn well that was just gonna, like, that's oil. That's like you threw gasoline on the fire, and then you're gonna shut up and just be like happy because you know damn well you just already blew it up. And now I'm good. I already blew you up. You're gonna be thinking about this till 5 a.m. in the morning because I blew it up. That is not nice. It's not nice, and it's not good. And then I have to come back and I go, all right, I'm sorry. Well, she says I never do, but it's because she's wrong about that too. I do come back and say, I'm sorry, babe, you know, but I do it in my way. You know what I mean? We all apologize in our own way. But baby, I'm telling you now, if you watched my show, babe, you know that I acknowledge it. And I actually, because sometimes when I have these conversations with her, she goes, oh, you do know. And I go, I do, but the hell if I'm going to give you that weaponry. I'm
Right.
never going to give my enemy a gun and say, go ahead and shoot me in the head. Nope, it's not going to happen. But baby, I love you, and I know that you're right a lot of the times, but I can't tell you in person. I can only tell you on this show, so you better start watching this show.
Right.
But yeah, you better, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy is a mantra that has saved me from myself many times.
Same
Saves me
here.
from myself.
That was also the hardest one to learn.
Right. Because we know, to Angel and Dana, we know you guys could say some stuff that could really hurt us because your mouths get out of control too. But we can too. And I'd rather be the one to take your blow than you be the one to take my blow. So that's the key point. You know what I mean? When women are treated poorly, you can see it in them. There's some women out there that you could just tell, God, man, life has just really treated you poorly, unfortunately. I don't want to do that to my babe. I don't want to do that to my Dana. Nope. I want her to walk around with happiness and pride and just that radiance. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to beat her down emotionally. So that mantra of "you rather be right, you rather be happy" is very big in relationships, people. But not just in relationships, in interpersonal relationships. Trinity tries to do that all the time with me when he knows he's wrong. He tries to just say, "Okay." He tries to do that okay method with me, but he knows damn well that I'm right, and so he just sits there and okays me to death. Knowing that I'm laughing on the inside. Exactly. There you go. But I can't wait for We the Middle show on Friday where we can talk football.
No, but you're right in the sense that
I know. Thank you.
When there's conversations, we're both hard headed, right? And we both feel like we're right in certain things. And there are moments where, like, if we're at sports or something like that, I can tell there's a moment where it's like, all right, like neither one of us are going to change each other's mind. So I'll just be like, okay, right. And I learned that a long time ago, because if it wasn't for that, like, dude, I've had like fist fights because of those kinds of things before, where they got way out of hand because somebody wasn't able to just be like, whatever, like, okay, sure. And like, I've had those moments in my life, and it was after spirituality that it helps me be okay. It does. It really, truly does help me be okay. I can't speak for everybody else, but for me personally, that is one of the most important things with me being okay, is being able to be like, okay, I'm going to choose happiness. And because that wasn't the case for me for very many years. I chose right. And I was willing to do whatever I got to do. I'll hurt who I got to hurt. I'll blow up what I got to blow up. I don't care if I have to pay the price for the rest of my life. It means that much to me right now. I'm going to be right. You're going to feel me, And then the problem is, afterwards, I was never really right in the first place, because they walk away not changing their perspective. And now I'm paying the price for whatever stupid thing I did to try to prove how right I was. And I got tired of that. And so that's part of being okay, is just, you got to learn to let some things go. You got to learn to be like, okay. So anyway, you got anything to wrap this up today?
Yeah, I'm just going to testify. It says Trinity is 100% right that he lives by that mantra, because I am a button pusher. I am a stir the potter, and I stir his little pot and I push his little buttons, and he has to activate it. So I keep him on his toes. And it's cool when you said that. I'm thinking, you know what? All my friends, we've had some scuffles back in the day. It's always fun. You and I have never scuffled, and I don't want to, because I'm way too old and you're way too big. So I'm not interested in that scuffle. But I think with all my childhood friends, we've all at least scuffled at least at one point in time. They always come back and say, "Yeah, Louis, you." I go, "Yeah, I know. I'll go like this.
I believe you.
I'm just gonna keep on going like this until you have to throw that punch, boy."
I believe you.
Oh, so does my brother, and so does every friend of mine. But it's awesome, man. It's awesome. So yes. So those are the two things. Remind everybody. My final words is, please, Trinity, remind people of those two little mantras that we use on a daily basis, and I think it could really help people be okay. We're here for you always, and that's it. That's all I got to say.
Right on. And before I wrap up, just thanks again to everybody for tuning in and watching, commenting. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, that kind of stuff. It does help us. As always, you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch live under Dope and Dharma, or you can follow us on social media. He is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy. I think I just want to end it on that note, man. Is look inward, be honest with yourself, take an honest assessment. Listen to the loved ones that you've chosen to put around you. You have people in your life that you chose to put there, and listen. If they're coming to you and they're asking you if you're okay, or if they're pointing out things, try not to get defensive. Try to figure out where that's coming from. Try to figure out, okay, what is it that I'm doing that's giving them that impression? Because if it's not true, then you need to figure out what you're doing that's giving them that impression. Because most people aren't going to just randomly wake up and want to start messing with you. They're going to see something that they're going to ask. And it's up to you to kind of look inwards and figure out, hey, am I okay? Look inwards and find that out. And then the most important one, man, I'm gonna leave you with that mantra, and that is, you can be right or you can be happy. And I'm telling you right now, for those of you who haven't experienced it, happy is it's the most amazing feeling. I refer to it as inner peace. When you have inner peace, what you'll notice is you're good. It's so easy to choose happy when you've got that inner peace inside. And the way you do that is by asking yourself the question, am I okay? So, anyways, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. And now that you know better, do better. Peace.